Hey, so this video is about that breathing exercise that is about the eccentric lengthening of the pelvic floor with under some tension. So we talked about how there's that contraction and there's the release. And when we don't have the ability to do the release under tension, like that in the bicep example, then everything just releases out, and that is when the pelvic floor can't really have that reflexive action of holding the pee in, holding organs in, being able to release and contract really well. So that's what we're doing, practicing here. So you can sit in any comfortable position. I have a chair behind me, but you could also sit cross-legged, on your shins, whatever, as long as you feel really well supported and that you can, concentrate on something else while you're sitting there. One more thing to say before we start is that this is a little bit confusing. It ends up kind of be like rubbing your belly and patting your head. So we will break it down into steps, and if anywhere along the way you just want to stop and stay with one of the steps and practice that before you go on to the next layer, that is always an option and a really good idea, so that you can isolate and really kind of feel like a mastery of one thing before you go on and add the next step. So getting in our comfortable sitting position, while we're here, actually, first let's just kind of like rock the pelvis forward and back a few times wherever you're sitting. If you're sitting cross-legged or on your shins or in a chair, just to kind of create some awareness of the pelvic floor area. So when I'm saying that, what I'm talking about is literally the base of your body, the area between your pubic bone in the front, your tailbone in the back, your right and left sits bones. And it's the layer of muscle, connective tissue, ligaments that is connecting that whole area. Sometimes I like to think about it like sometimes yoga pants have that triangle right in the crotch. That's in your body. That's the area that we're talking about. So we're just increasing the awareness there. And then come to a still seat. The first step is just going to be to notice that lengthening and the coming back in, or the contraction of the pelvic floor. So you don't have to try to do anything right now. We're just going to focus on breath and try to notice what you feel in that area. So take 3 deep breaths now, noticing this action. So what you might start to sense is on your inhalation, that space between pubic bone, tailbone, right and left sit bones almost like widens or lengthens or gets a little bit bigger. And then on the exhale, it's almost like it comes back in. Those bony areas get a little bit closer together. You might feel a small sense of a lift up, but definitely not as much as a Kegel, just kind of like coming back in. So let's try to go to the extreme for a moment so we can feel what we're not doing first. So just right now, go ahead and have this feeling like you're like pushing a baby out of your vagina, you're having a bowel movement, you're kind of like pushing out and down. It will almost be like you'll feel the pelvic floor expand down into the chair and then release. So that kind of sharp, like, movement is not what we're looking for. I just wanted you to be able to feel that, the difference between that and the kind of like slow and controlled expansiveness out and the release back in. So again, that's the difference between like that push down would kind of be like, whoa, rather than like you're here and it's just steadily under kind of an even pace going out and down. So that's the first step. If you want to stay there, just sensing that feeling, you can kind of enhance your breath, like kind of take a bigger breath in and a bigger breath out to feel that pelvic floor movement. So that's step 1. Let's take that to the side for a moment. Step 2 is going to be focusing on an abdominal contraction with your exhale. So now you can go ahead and imagine that there is, starting right from your pubic bone, so deep in here, there is an arrow pointing straight up the center line of your body. And this is the direction of the engagement with your exhale. So it's going to start low and deep here and go up in the direction of your belly button. So let's just practice that a few times. You'll inhale. On your exhale, you'll exhale out through your mouth with the air out through your mouth, and feel like the engagement of the abdominals is starting really low and deep, drawing up in this direction. Then on your inhale for now, you could just release and then find that again. For now, you're not thinking about the pelvic floor right now. It's reflexively doing its thing. You don't have to make it do anything. Just focusing on this kind of like wrapping in sensation and knitting up from the bottom on up your center line. So let's try that again. And release that. So that's another place that you can pause and just work on that for a little while. If you feel ready, then you're going to go on to step 3, which is putting those two together, which is where we get a little rubbing the belly, patting the head. So I'm going to go ahead and try to explain it first. So basically, you're going to take an inhale. You're going to find that light abdominal contraction on the exhale. And for your next inhale, you're going to try to maintain that. So instead of letting it go on the inhale, you're going to try and kind of maintain some of that abdominal tone. At the same time, on that inhale, you're going to go for the opening, the lengthening, the steady release of the pelvic floor. And then you'll exhale and you can just let that all go for now. So we're putting the step 1 and the step 2 together at the same time. This is not a suggestion at all for how to breathe all the time. This is an exercise just like, doing a lunge or a squat is an exercise. It's an exercise to find that pelvic floor eccentric length while it's under a little bit of tension, the abdominal tension. So let's try and put that all together a couple times. So you're going to inhale, exhale, the up arrows. Hold on to that feeling a little bit as you inhale and feel your pelvic floor kind of almost like lengthening down into the chair or whatever you're sitting on. And then exhale, just release for now. So once you get used to that first part, then you can do a few of those breaths in a row. So you would inhale, exhale, find the abdominal engagement. You're going to inhale, maintain this here. These are the abdominals, and let the pelvic floor open, widen. And then you're going to exhale, bring it back in, and it's almost like the abdominals get a little bit more of that engagement on the next exhale. So hold on to this on the inhale, let the pelvic floor open and widen, and then exhale comes back in. This gets a little bit more as well. So let's try that together. Inhale, exhale, up arrows. Try to maintain this a little bit. Inhale, pelvic floor. And then exhale, pelvic floor draws back in, abdominals engage a little bit more. One more time like that. Inhale, pelvic floor, under this tension. So this is holding on, pelvic floor. Widening, lengthening, opening, and then exhale, all comes back in, and then release. Don't worry if it feels like a lot to think about right now. It is a lot to think about. Just go back to that first step and just practice that, and then just practice the second step, and then eventually put it all together. Let me know if you have any questions.